Welcome to CinePro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The events of our movie today begin with a man named Colter Stevens, a soldier in the U.S. Air Force, sitting in Qatar and heading to Chicago. Colter dreams of his commander ordering him to return to his base. Suddenly, he wakes up to find himself on a train, with a beautiful girl named Christina in front of him. He keeps looking around in confusion, not understanding where he is. At that moment, Christina tells him that she followed his advice and thanks him. She notices that he looks tired and asks him what's wrong, calling him by the name Sean. While they're talking, a woman passes by and thanks him. And again, Christina notices he seems unwell and calls him Sean. As they talk, another woman passes by with a cup of coffee, and some of it spills on his shoe. He also notices a passenger sitting in front of him who is very angry and tense. At that moment, someone keeps calling Christina several times, and Colter learns that she is annoyed by these calls. Colter keeps looking around until he notices someone coughing a lot. Then, the train conductor approaches and asks for tickets. Colter looks at him in surprise. Christina comes closer, takes a ticket out of his pocket, and asks him why he's acting so strangely today. Colter gets closer to her and tells her that he doesn't know her and has never seen her before. He introduces himself as Captain Colter Stevens, a pilot for the U.S. Army in Afghanistan. Christina laughs and tells him, "Sean, we're approaching Glenbrook Station." She keeps laughing, and Colter tells her that he's tired and feels like he wants to go back. He quickly gets up and heads to the bathroom. While moving through the train, he notices a bag labeled Walter Army Medical Center. He sees a young man calling out to a passenger who dropped his wallet. Colter follows him to the train door to return the wallet and asks him, "Where are we?" The young man tells him they're in Chicago, then leaves. Colter goes back into the train before it moves and returns to his seat. Christina teases him, laughing, and asks, "How are you now, Captain?" Colter looks out the window and notices that things look different. He quickly goes to the bathroom and locks the door. When he looks in the mirror, he sees the face of another person. He backs away from the mirror in shock. He takes the wallet from his pocket and finds a photo of the man he saw in the mirror, named Sean, whose profession is a teacher. When he leaves the bathroom, he finds Christina standing in front of him, worried about him. He tells her that he doesn't understand anything, and that he's not the Sean she's talking about. She tries to calm him down and tells him they're getting off at the next stop, Chicago. While they're talking, another train passes by and both trains explode. Colter opens his eyes and finds himself in a strange, dark room full of wires. A woman calls his name and tells him he's in the beleaguered castle center. She asks him to speak to confirm the transfer. Colter asks her, "Where am I?" She repeats that he's in the beleaguered castle center. He tells her he feels dizzy and asks if he lost consciousness during battle in Afghanistan. The woman asks him to tell her what he saw on the train. He tells her there was a huge explosion on the train. Colter feels tired, and his head isn't right. Suddenly, the screen in front of him turns on, and the woman he's speaking to appears, wearing a military uniform. Colter asks her, "Who are you?" She tells him he knows her well and has all the information about them. She tells him they're going to rebuild the model and asks him to focus more. Colter tells her all he remembers is being on a mission and flying, then waking up on a train. He asks her to summarize what's happening to him so he can understand. She tells him he's in the beleaguered castle unit from the first chain model of Alpha Memory and asks him to listen so he can remember. She shows him a set of playing cards and asks him to focus. She tells him, Layla woke up in her new clothes with 5 playing cards and shows him the card numbers. She asks him to remember the numbers and arrange them in descending order. Colter arranges the numbers correctly. She then asks him the name of the girl, Essa, she mentioned, and Colter answers correctly again. She asks him to remember her own name, and Colter says, "Your name is Goodwin." She laughs and welcomes him back to the program. Here, Goodwin's commander appears, named Rutledge, and we notice he's walking with a cane. Colter asks them to call his father to reassure him. He asks if they've told anyone in the United States. Goodwin asks him who blew up the train. He tells her about the girl sitting in front of him, calling him Sean, and that he doesn't know who blew up the train. She asks him to remember what happened carefully and tells him she'll send him back to the train for 8 minutes to find out who planted the bomb. Colter gets angry and says he wants to know where he is and what his condition is after the mission. Goodwin changes the subject and asks him to find out what kind of bomb it was and how the train was blown up. She sends him back to the train before he can answer. Colter finds himself in front of Christina again, and she says the same things she said before, that she took his advice and registered for a law school entrance exam, and afterward will travel to India to fulfill her dream. While they're talking, The same woman spills tea on his shoe again, and Christina takes a napkin to wipe his shoe. After 8 minutes, Colter feels everything reset. He tries to touch Christina to make sure she's real, but the conductor approaches and asks for his ticket. He hands it over and looks around at the passengers until he sees a man holding a newspaper and asking about the time. Colter attacks him, grabs the newspaper, and asks, "Why are you asking about the time?" The passengers are surprised by his behavior and think he's crazy. Christina calls him and tells him that this man is a performer, someone who makes people laugh. Colter starts walking through the train, trying to find the terrorist who will blow up the train. The young man calls out again to the passenger who dropped his wallet. Colter gets off the train and is shocked to find that everything around him feels very real and that he has truly traveled to the past. He gets back on the train and starts thinking about whether the explosion happened in front of him or behind him. He remembers it came from behind and quickly goes to the bathroom, locking the door. He searches everywhere for the bomb until he finds it in the ventilation shaft. He's afraid to touch it and keeps calling out to Goodwin, hoping she can hear him and tell him how to stop it. He leaves the bathroom, pretending to be an officer, and orders all the passengers to turn off their phones and any electronic devices. Of course, no one listens, and they accuse him of being crazy. Then he notices a young man with headphones on, focused on his laptop. Colter suspects he's the terrorist controlling the bomb and attacks him, forcing him to turn off his devices. And when he refuses, he hits him. And Christina is shocked by his behavior and gets angry at him. While they are not speaking, the explosion happens again, and Colter returns to the program. At that time, Goodwin asks him if he found the bomb. He tells her that he found it in the bathroom but couldn't stop it. Colter remains agitated and asks to meet Rutledge. Goodwin tells him that he can't meet him until his mission is completed. At that moment, Colter tells her that his previous mission was in Afghanistan with his team. Here, Goodwin shocks him by telling him that he has been with them for 2 months. She asks him to tell her about the bomb he saw, but Colter remains upset and wants to understand what is happening to him. Here, Goodwin is forced to speak to Rutledge to ask him what to do. He allows her to give Colter some basic information to calm him down. She goes back to Colter and tells him that this morning a bomb exploded on the train leaving Chicago. Unfortunately, all the passengers on the train died. That was the train he was on. Colter is shocked and asks her how the train exploded with him on it while he is talking to her. She tells him that the person whose identity he has assumed is named Sean, a teacher, and unfortunately, he died in the train explosion. She continues to explain that they need to find out who the terrorist behind the explosion is, as there is a possibility of further attacks in different places. Colter then tells her that he found the bomb in the bathroom and that it was connected to a mobile phone. Goodwin tells him that the information he provided is very useful and asks him to go back to the train again to look for the terrorist who planted the bomb. She advises him to look among the people who seemed nervous. She tells him that they will send him back to the train for another 8 minutes to search for the terrorist. Indeed, he returns and finds Christina telling him the same thing as every time. He takes off his jacket and moves his leg away from the woman who always spills tea on him as usual. He also immediately takes out his ticket and gives it to the conductor. He tells Christina that she is real and very beautiful. She's surprised by his words but is pleased. Colter asks her to sit next to him and suggests they play a game. She should tell him everything she knows about the passengers. She starts to share her impressions of everyone there. Colter notices a man coming out of the bathroom looking nervous. He also finds Sean's bag next to him, which contains a switched-off phone and a note saying he planned to have coffee with Christina. Colter asks her to walk with him. He runs after the man who left the bathroom until he gets off the train, and Colter keeps watching him from a distance until he sees him sitting in the lounge. Colter goes and sits next to him, asking about his phone. The man says he doesn't have a phone and gets up to leave, but Colter stops him and tries to take his bag by force. When the man refuses, Colter hits him, and Christina keeps calling for him to stop. While they are fighting, the train explodes. Colter then realizes that this man had nothing to do with the bombing. The man attacks Colter and pushes him onto the train tracks. Suddenly, another train passes and hits him, and he returns to the program again. But he is shocked to find himself cold and everything around him frozen. Here we learn that the program has a malfunction, and Rutledge and his team are trying to fix it. After several attempts, Colter manages to fix the screen he used to talk to Goodwin. Rutledge talks to him and asks if he found the terrorist. Colter says he couldn't, but he suspects Christina, who is sitting in front of him on the train. Goodwin tells him he is wasting time and that this is outside his mission. Through their conversation, we learn that Colter is in a capsule called the Source Code, invented by Rutledge, which works on a specific part of the brain that remains active even after death and retains memories for 8 minutes. Here, we learn that there are electrical circuits in the brain that remain active after a person dies. This is what Rutledge used for the source code project. They also learn that Sean died in the train explosion and that he was the only person with similar characteristics, which is why Colter assumed his identity. Colter asks what will happen after the 8 minutes. Rutledge tells him that he will no longer exist, as it is impossible to stay in the source code for more than 8 minutes. Rutledge explains that the source code is a time reset that transfers them to a parallel reality. Colter tries to explain that he saved Christina. Goodwin shows him her photo, and when he confirms it is her, she tells him that Christina died in the same explosion. She says they have information about another terrorist attack that will happen in the city center using a radioactive bomb. They must identify the terrorist who blew up the train in order to prevent the other planned attacks. Rutledge urges Colter to focus so they can save the city from the coming attack. Goodwin tells him there is a specific place on the train where he can find a gun to defend himself. Colter returns to the train, and the same events and conversations repeat. He quickly goes to the cabin with the gun and tries to force the door open. As soon as he enters, the security personnel on the train attack him, thinking he is trying to steal the gun. When he threatens to kill them, they tase him and handcuff him. Colter opens his eyes to find Christina beside him. He asks her to give him her phone so he can call his father and hear his voice for the last time. While they are talking, the 8 minutes end and the train explodes. Colter returns to the program and asks Goodwin to let him call his father. Goodwin promises to fulfill his request after he completes his mission. She urges him not to waste time and to stop the terrorist by any means. While they are talking, Colter sees the logo of the place where Goodwin works on her clothes. She advises him to look for someone with a bag containing equipment used to plant the bomb on the train. Colter returns to the train again and tries to draw the logo he saw on Goodwin's clothes. He asks Christina for her phone to use the internet. When she sees the logo he drew, she asks if he was in the army. He tells her that his friend was in the army and disappeared. He tries to find any information about him. Christina promises to help and asks for his name. He tells her his real name and that he worked in the 17th Airborne Division in Afghanistan. Colter notices that one of the passengers is talking on the phone. He goes to him and tries to take the phone. When the man agrees, Colter grabs his bag and starts searching it. The other passengers are frightened by his behavior. When he finds nothing, he throws the bag back and searches for another. Then he notices a military bag belonging to one of the passengers. He takes it out and tells her, "You work at Walter Reed." He asks her about the logo he drew. She tells him she used to work there a long time ago and is scared of him, so he asks her about the logo he drew. She tells him that this logo is for the Air Force and the letter written on it means Niles. Colter asks her for her phone in exchange for all the money he has. She refuses to take the money and gives him the phone so he can use the internet and then gives it back to her. Colter starts searching for the logo online until he finds it. He calls Rutledge using the phone number written down. As he asks to speak to Rutledge, Christina comes closer and finds out that Colter, the one who wanted to know information about him, died 2 months ago during the mission while saving his commander. Colter is shocked when he learns he is dead. He returns to the program again and asks Goodwin, "Am I really dead?" Goodwin tries to change the subject and asks him to focus on his mission. When he begs her to tell him the truth, she confirms that he is dead and that only a part of his brain is still alive. Colter asks her, "How? I can see my hands and legs." She tells him that all of this is an imaginary projection. Even the capsule he's in is imaginary. Colter gets angry and insults her. At that moment, Rutledge speaks to him and tries to calm him down, telling him that any other soldier would wish to be in his place to serve his country even after death. He asks him to focus on the mission to save his country and the lives of millions of people that depend on him. Colter tells them he called the train's conductor's son. Rutledge explains that they are in a different reality, and that call will never reach him. He tells them they will disconnect the devices from his brain and let him die after he finishes his mission. Colter gets angry at Goodwin because she speaks to him calmly. Colter returns to the train more than once but doesn't reach a result, until Rutledge lets him hear his father's voice talking about him during his memorial after he died. Colter decides to live up to his father's expectations and returns to the train with full focus. He starts opening the cabin that contains the weapon without anyone seeing him. He also takes the phone connected to the bomb. He calls the last number dialed and is shocked to find out that the number belongs to the person who always forgets his wallet on the train and gets off. He runs after him and is surprised to see him deliberately throw his wallet on the train before it departs, so it would seem like he died with the other passengers. Colter takes the wallet and jumps off the train, discovering that his name is Derek. When Christina sees him, she decides to get off the train too to see what he's doing. Colter goes after Derek and keeps calling him. He memorizes the car's license plate number and threatens him with a weapon to get his phone. He tells him about the wallet he threw on the train and about the bomb he planted and the phone connected to it. Derek is surprised and asks, "How do you know all this?" Then Derek opens the car door, and Colter is shocked to find a huge amount of explosives and a box containing radioactive material. While they're talking, Christina appears and calls out to Colter. Derek takes advantage of the opportunity, grabs the gun, and shoots at them to finish them off. Colter returns to the program once again and tells Goodwin that he has found the terrorist. He tells her his name, car number, and color. She's very happy and informs Rutledge, who quickly moves and informs the authorities. At that time, Colter asks them to let him return to the train one more time to save the passengers. But Rutledge tells him he cannot change the past and leaves him. The police are able to arrest Derek and stop the bomb. Rutledge then requests to continue the source code program to fight terrorism. Goodwin thanks Colter for his help. Colter begs her to give him a chance to return to his train and save the passengers in exchange for turning off the devices after he tries to save them. He tells her he wants to save Christina because he truly loves her. She tries to explain to him that all the passengers are already dead and he can't change the past, but he keeps begging her until she agrees. She gives him 8 minutes and tells him that after that, she will turn off his life support. Colter returns to the train once again and asks Christina to have coffee with him, but asks her first for 5 minutes to do something important and then return to her. He goes to the bathroom where the bomb is and looks for another phone. He finds it connected to another phone and succeeds in disconnecting its wire. He leaves the bathroom and bumps into the train conductor to take his handcuffs. He succeeds and goes to handcuff Derek and calls the police from his phone, giving them his name and the location of his car with the bombs. They realize he is a dangerous person who must be punished for his actions. Meanwhile, Goodwin goes to Rutledge and is shocked to learn from him that he lied to Colter and will not disconnect the devices so he can continue using him in the program. He orders her to erase all of Colter's memories. Goodwin decides to break orders and disconnect the devices from Colter. Colter then sends a thank you message from the train to Goodwin on her phone. He calls his father, pretending to be Sean, his son, and tells him that Colter asked him to call and apologize for the way he last spoke to him. He also tells him he loves him very much and asks for his forgiveness. At the same time, Goodwin enters the room containing the machine where Colter is kept. When she opens it, we notice that Colter is only half a body. Goodwin realizes she is affected by his presence on the train and admits that she loved him very much. We return to Colter as he goes back to Christina and asks the clown to make all the passengers laugh in exchange for all the money he has. At this point, Goodwin's assistant tells Rutledge that she entered Colter's room. Rutledge runs to her and begs her to open the door. He threatens her with a court-martial to scare her and stop her from disconnecting the devices. But the 8 minutes are up, and Colter succeeds in saving the passengers, and Goodwin turns off the devices. Colter dies in reality, but in the source code world, he's still alive and decides to spend his life with Christina. Afterwards, it is broadcast in the news that someone named Derek tried to blow up a train heading to Chicago. Goodwin also receives Colter's message. She keeps reading the message and learns from Colter that the source code program succeeded in creating a new world parallel to the past and the future. Colter tells her he is ready to carry out any new mission she asks of him. And so, the events of our movie today come to an end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you always get the latest updates. Goodbye.